Hi everybody, it's Affy, and today I am here to do my February wrap-up video. I'm really sorry about my last video, which I think was my TBR. The sound was not good. I figured it out though, or at least I hope I did. I'm hoping this one will be better. But yeah, sorry about that if anybody happened to watch it. So today I'm going to be doing my February wrap up. I read, I think, 8 or 9 books. Pretty much stuck to my TBR. I had one additional book that I read, but it was a reread. So nothing else outside of what I originally picked for my TBR for February. So I'm just gonna hop right in and start with the first book I read, which was Scandal in Spring by Lisa Kleypas. Here we go. Pretty beautiful step back. So this was the last book in the Wallflower series. And this book is about Daisy Bowman. She's the younger sister of the Bowmans, and Matthew Swift. So Matthew is a guy who Daisy's father has basically decided she is going to marry if he cannot, or if she cannot find a husband. So it's been 2 years since the last book, which was Devil in Winter. Everybody's basically married and has kids, and Daisy's just kind of the last wallflower left. She hasn't been able to get married. So her dad is like, if you don't find a husband within the next year, I'm going to marry you off to Matthew Swift. He likes Matthew Swift. He thinks Matthew Swift is going to take over for him with his business. So he's like, it'll be great if you marry him. You know, my daughter marrying the guy that I think is going to take over my business. Unfortunately, she remembers him from when they were younger, and she did not like him when they were younger. So he has a big hill to climb. She basically gives him a rough time in the very beginning, and Lillian gives him an even rougher time. Like, Lillian really doesn't like him. But they keep bumping into each other, and it's a 2-week stay at Stony Cross Park. I forgot that part. Stony Cross Park, they always have their 2-week country stay. And so, of course, Marcus Westcliff is in this book. And he does a great job in the very end of this book. I'm not going to spoil it, but he saves the day like he always does in every single book. So I was happy he was in this book. But this book was good. It wasn't my favorite out of the Wallflower series. I would probably put this at number 3 or 4. I still liked it. I like Matthew Swift. I think he's actually very sweet. There was a monologue that he had that I thought was just so, it was really cute, and I was just like, ugh, I haven't read a monologue like that in a while. But the one thing I didn't like was that it felt like it ended kind of abruptly. It was just kind of like, oh, the day has been saved. Okay, now we're together. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it feels like it was within like the last few pages. And I don't really appreciate that. I wanted to at least see maybe a little bit of their wedding, or like the epilogue didn't give me what I needed it to give me. So I was a little upset about that. But I did like this book. I'm not going to say I didn't like it. It's a Wallflower book. I like all the Wallflowers. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. Yeah, this was good. The whole series was good. I don't think I gave any of the books in that series anything lower than a 4-star, I think. So there's that one. And then the next book that I read for February is Wild Sweet Love by Beverly Jenkins. And this book I loved. I love this book. So this is about Teresa July, who is an outlaw. She was caught in the very beginning of the book and served 3 years' time. And she meets a guy named Madison, and he is the son of the woman that takes Teresa in. So Teresa gets to be, she basically gets let out for good behavior, but she has to be watched by someone. And so the person that takes her in is Madison's mother. Previously, she had taken in another woman who happened to be a prisoner as well. And that woman had not kidnapped, I'm sorry, she didn't kidnap her. She stole from her. And so Madison is very concerned that, that might happen again with Teresa. So he doesn't like her the moment he meets her. He's like, he just expects that she's going to do something and take advantage of his mother. So he automatically doesn't like her. But it very quickly, very, very quickly, turns to him kind of falling for her. And when he does, he falls quickly. He sees her, and at first I think he feels kind of like this woman is wild, but the more he gets to know her, the more he loves that about her. So one of the things I really loved about this book was Teresa, like her character. I love her character. She's very sweet, but she's also, like I said, kind of wild. She's a bold badass. Like, she's bold and she's funny. Like, she cracks me up. I listened to this on audiobook, and I really love the narrator. The narrator was really good. But she's hilarious, and he is pussy whipped by the end of this book. Like, he just, whatever you want, I will give it to you. She keeps him on his toes. So I really enjoyed this book. One of the things that I wrote in my notes was that the July family, Teresa's family, they're so heartwarming and fun to watch. She's got all these brothers, and she's the only daughter. And so, that's part of why she came out the way she was. She wanted to be with her outlaw brothers. And they're such a fun family. I love them. And the other... oh, yes. So the other thing that I liked about the book was that there was talk about contraception. So there is quite a bit of... I'm not going to call it lessons in seduction, but it was kind of lessons in seduction. I'm just going to call it lessons in seduction. So there was also lessons of seduction in this book, which I guess I forgot to mention. This is probably Beverly Jenkins' most spicy book that I've read so far. I still have a bit of her backlist to go through, but so far this one was spicy. I was like, okay, Beverly. Okay. But I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I wouldn't say it took away from the story. It was actually still quite romantic. So I really love this one. I gave this one 5 stars. And yeah, this is a new fave for me. This is a new fave. I really, really enjoyed this book. So if you're interested in a Beverly Jenkins book that you have not read yet, because I'm assuming a lot of people haven't read this one, I haven't heard anybody talk about it, definitely check it out. If you like to read things in series, though, maybe don't. It's kind of part of a series. So outside of that, it was a good book. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm going to shut up about that book now. February was Eloisa James's When Beauty Tamed the Beast, and this is part of the fairy tale series, I think. I really love that step back. Okay. So this is Lynette and Pierce, and in their story, Lynette goes to a ball and she's wearing a dress that everybody assumes she's pregnant because it makes her look pregnant. So she gets destroyed in society. Like basically everybody thinks she's pregnant. So now she's ruined. So her aunt and her dad sit down. They're trying to figure out how to fix this situation. They decide that Pierce, who is a doctor and has been living out in the countryside, and people don't really know much about, they're like, oh, well, apparently this guy can't have kids. So, you should just continue pretending like you're pregnant, and that way you can marry that guy. He can find out later that you're not actually pregnant. And she's like, that's a stupid idea. But she goes anyway. And the moment Pierce sees her, he realizes she's not pregnant because, again, so she gets dropped off by Pierce's father. And Pierce and his father don't get along, but his father is hoping that, this woman who is pregnant will be able to give his son a child, hopefully a son. He will give his son a son, and he sees this as an opportunity. So he's the one that ends up taking her there, and Pierce and his father do not have a good relationship. So that's part of the reason he doesn't want to take Lynette on as his wife, because his father is the one that chose her. So there's this weird thing where they're like, we're engaged, but we're not engaged. It's funny, but it's kind of annoying. Um, but this book was a lot of fun. I really liked it. Pierce is an asshole, but he's an asshole in the sense that, like, he still cares. You can tell he still cares, but he's just a dick about it. He reminds me of the doctor from House, and apparently in the notes at the end of the book, she talks about how that's actually who she based the character off of, was the House MD. I never watched the show, so I don't really remember anything about it, but I could tell that's who she was going for, and then she clarified and said in the end of the book, like, that is who she was going for. So this is definitely a lot of Grumpy Sunshine, Beauty and the Beast retelling, of course. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I blew through it so quickly. So yeah, out of the books in that series, this is the first one I've read, and I really want to read the rest of the series, because this was good. I really like this. So, and then I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah. So the next book that I read was A Matter of Temptation by Stacy Reid, and I enjoyed this one as well. So this is Mina and Simon, and Mina and her brother are poor, basically. They're headed toward the poorhouse, and Mina's brother goes and decides to be an idiot and play a game of cards, loses some more money, and basically tells the guy, Simon at the time, that he will duel him because he's an idiot. And so Simon is like, yeah, sure, whatever. Come to my house next morning and we'll duel and we'll get this over with. So Mina, finding out her brother has done this, knows that she's a better fencer than her brother is, and she's like, you're gonna end up making this situation worse for her. Let me go in your stead. And he refuses, so she drugs him and she goes anyway. And she ends up winning the duel, but once the duel is finished, Simon realizes that so he offers her a job after she wins the duel, and she takes it because obviously they need the money. And at first she's traveling back and forth from home to work, And then eventually he's like, this is too much for you. Maybe you should just come and stay at my house. And eventually she does. And you can imagine what happens once she comes to stay with him. But yeah, this was a good one. So there's a little thing in here about how he doesn't want her to smile because her smile is too distracting for him. So every time she starts smiling, he'll be like, mm. She's like, yeah. And she stops smiling. And then after a while, he realizes how idiotic he's being. And he's just like, you can smile. I'm sorry. That was stupid of me. But it was just like, she's so distracting that he couldn't deal when she would smile. And I thought that was pretty hilarious. But this book, this is Mutual Pining, of course. She's a spinster. He's a widow. It's employee-employer. So there's that. And then my notes for this one was that it was a good story. Mina's a sweetheart. I really love her. There's not a lot of plot. This is more so kind of emotional and character driven, I guess. The plot isn't very heavy. So, but other than that, I don't really have much more to say. I liked it and it was good, and that's about it. So yeah. And I think I already mentioned, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So yeah. Okay, so the next book that I read was another Lisa Kleypas. This is the Hathaway series, and this is Mine Till Midnight. I'm going to go ahead and show you the step back. That's not one of my favorite step backs, but it's all right. So this is Cam Rohan and Amelia Hathaway. Amelia is the eldest Hathaway sister. They have an older brother named Leo. He is a Viscount, or at least he becomes a Viscount. So the Hathaway family, at least in this book when they start off, are not well off. They basically are poor. Both their parents have died, and Leo lost someone and is basically become an alcoholic. Like he can barely manage himself. So Amelia has to basically step up and be the one to take care of the rest of the family. So one day Leo is being Leo and he goes missing, and they're trying to find him. So they go to Jenner's, which is the club from Devil in Winter, to go look for him. And she ends up meeting Cam Rohan. And they get to know each other. While you get to know the Hathaway family as well. This is an okay book. I didn't love it. I was really hoping to love it more because it's Cam Rohan, and I really loved him from was it It Happened One Autumn, I think. But the family goes through a lot. I mean, I think their house burns down, and they're just like they don't have good luck at all. But by the end of the book, everything kind of works itself out. I liked it. My main issue was that at this point I was kind of tired of Stony Cross Park. I just wanted new scenery of something else because I just finished The Wallflowers, and Stony Cross Park was in every single book except for the 3rd book. So I'm thinking, okay, whole new entire series. Nope, they're still at Stony Cross Park. They're still hanging out at Stony Cross Park. Nobody's going anywhere. So that annoyed me. And this is kind of similar to the thing with Devil in Winter where I felt claustrophobic. It just felt like we need to get away from Stony Cross Park. As much as we love it, we need to get the fuck away at least every once in a while and go somewhere else. So that annoyed me. It wasn't as romantic as I was hoping, at least to me. I felt like Cam Rohan was a little bit pushy in some parts of the story. Like when he marries her Romany style, but doesn't tell her that that's how their culture does it. And so she wakes up the next morning with a ring on her finger, and he's like, "You're my wife." Um, um, yeah, there's just a couple of things, but overall, I would say it is still a good book. It's Lisa Kleypas. It's still good. I just had my issues, which they aren't. None of it is bad. It's just my own little things. So I would say don't not. I'm not knocking the book. It's still a good book. I have my weird little issues. So I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, and I will be continuing the series. So yeah, Mine Till Midnight. Okay, so the next book that I read was The Heiress Gets a Duke by Harper St. George. And this book I did not like. I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. The main characters, we have Evan, who's a duke, and August, who is our heroine. I did not like her. I did not like her at all. She was so hyper focused on her independence, which is fine, but it was just nonstop. Like, I'm an independent woman. I'm an independent woman. I'm an independent woman, and you're not going to take this away from me. And it's like, dude, we get it. We get it. You're independent. You like your independence. Shut the fuck up. I could not stand her. I almost stopped reading the book. I almost DNF'd it because I just didn't want to hear her talking about how she's independent anymore. We get it. I honestly did not understand what it was he liked about her. By the end of the book, I was like, why are you with her? She was just rubbing that in his face nonstop. So I did not enjoy this book. I will not recommend it to anybody. But if you really want to read this series, go on ahead. This is the first book in the series. I've heard the other ones are better. So I'm still going to go along and read the rest of the series. I have the books. I might as well. But this was not a good start to the series. At least not for me. This wasn't a good start. So yeah, I didn't even bother writing the plot down in my book journal. Like, I just skipped it completely. Okay, so the next book I read last month is Lorraine Heath's Falling into Bed with the Duke. This is the first book in the Hellions of Havisham series, and I had accidentally read the second book first, but it's cool because I kind of understood the twins and their relationship from the second book, so I kind of like that. But this was another hit for me. So this is the Duke of Ashbury. His name is Nicholas, but I'm just gonna call him the Duke. And Minerva. And Minerva wants to be a spinster, or at least she wants to stay a spinster. She's not really interested in getting married. In some ways, she's similar to the girl from the last book I mentioned. She does want her independence, but she's not rubbing it in people's faces. Like, she's what the girl in the last book wants to be, but is not. Anyways, back to Minerva. So she decides that she wants to lose her virginity, and so there's a club where women can go and wear a mask and have relations with people, and because they have their masks, they're protected, so that they don't get ruined. So she decides to go to this club, and she ends up meeting the Duke, and he has like a thing for her legs, and he likes to photograph like parts of women's bodies. So he likes her legs, and he asks her if she'll let him photograph her legs. And of course she's kind of weirded out by it. She's like, no, but she keeps coming back to the club, and he keeps coming back as well. On the first night, they don't do anything, but as it goes along, they eventually do things. But he's really hoping to find her. And so he sees Minerva at one of his art shows, and she's so interested in his art that he thinks maybe she might be the woman that he's looking for. So he starts really courting her while he's trying to put this, the pieces together. Like, is she the woman? Is she not the woman? This book was really fun. I enjoyed reading this. Just the way she was trying to like hide herself, but she wasn't doing a very good job of it. This was kind of slow burn, which I liked. And then, yeah, I would say I like that she didn't give in. She kind of put her foot down and was like, this is what I want. And I'm willing to negotiate, but I know what I want, and I'm not gonna walk away from that. So she didn't let him push her around, which was good. Or at least push her into something she didn't want to do. So this was a good one. I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I liked meeting the other Hellions of Havisham. They seem like cool guys. So I'm looking forward to the third book because, like I said, I already read the second. I'm going to skip to the third, and I'm looking forward to it. I really like Lorraine Heath's writing, so I'm always excited when I pull one of her books out to read. So this was a good one. You guys should read it. Okay, so the next book that I read was Joanna Shupe's The Heiress Hunt. This is the first book in one of her series, but I can't remember. The Fifth Avenue Rebels. It's on there. I should have checked. Okay, so this is about Maddie and Harrison Archer. I love the name Archer, so I had to say that. This book is about Maddie and Harrison, so some things go wrong in his life. One of them being he overhears Maddie, who he's in love with, saying that she would never be with him. And then some horrible stuff happens with his family. So he decides he's going to run off, and he goes to France for 3 years. And when he comes back, he's decided he's going to ruin his family, and he's going to win Maddie's hand in marriage. He is very, very good at reaching his goals, at least by the end of the book. So he puts in a lot of work. There is a stay in Harbor Island, I think, or something like that. This is an American, Joanna Shupe only writes American, what's the time period I'm looking for? Gilded Age books. So this is in America. Maybe it's Ann Harbor. It's Harbor something. But it's kind of like a country stay. And he tells her that he needs help to find a wife in the hopes that it would give him time that he can spend with her, and then he can eventually be with her. But she puts a lot of effort into this, and she is not happy when she finds out that he was wasting all her time just trying to be with her. It's like, okay, you could have just said you wanted to be with me. This was okay. I think I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, 3 to 3.5. In some ways it kind of reminded me of Secrets of a Summer Night by Lisa Kleypas. Just kind of the part about him looking for a wife and there being a group of women that are trying to catch the guy. It just gave me Secrets of a Summer Night vibes, which I like that book, so I won't say I didn't, but I think the reason I didn't love this conflict, which is like you can see it coming from a mile away. He just kind of walks himself right into it, and that was irritating. I didn't like that. The story itself was okay though. I don't really have a reason for not loving it. It was just okay. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say. 3.5 stars. It was still good. It just, I didn't love it. So the next book that I read for February is Love and War by Sheree Lynn. And I listened to this on audiobook, which was a really fun experience because they do multiple narrators, and then there's also background sounds, so you can hear like the revving of an engine or food cooking on the stove and things like that. I really like that about it. It's more immersive and interactive, or more immersive, I guess. So this book is about Victoire and Emile, and I say Victoire because I love that name. But Emile is a doctor and Victoire is a singer. She's kind of like a singer in bars, but obviously this is during World War II. This is in Nazi Paris, or Nazi occupied Paris. And so Emile one day is walking around with a friend, and he sees her being, well, he sees people attempting to sexually assault her. Oh, let me go back a sec. So Emile's father is a Nazi, and he actually signs Emile up to become a Nazi as well without giving him the option. His father is like a commander of some sort, so he's like, this is what our family is about, and you're going to be part of what our family is about. So we're Nazis, you're going to be a Nazi. He is not happy about it, but he doesn't really have a choice. So when he sees her and she's being assaulted out in the streets too, he saves her and he tells them, she's my maid, and I just let me have her and everything will be fine. So they do, and he takes her to his home in the country, and she works as his maid. And this book is so sweet. I didn't even give it a rating because I don't know what to rate it. Like, part of me wants to give it a 5. Part of me wants to even possibly give it a 6. Like, I really like this one. I will say there are warnings for, obviously, sexual assault, warnings for suicide. So it's very angsty, and there's a lot of deep stuff in this book. The one issue I had with it was that there was talk about them getting to know each other and spending time together. I would have preferred that they actually had those scenes of them being together, but this book is shorter than your average. It's like 200 and something pages, so it's longer than a novella, but it's not as long as a full-length book, and so I feel like some of that kind of got missed. I would have enjoyed having more of that, but there is one thing in here that happens that Emile kind of blames her for, and that was upsetting for me. But even outside of that, like, this was still really good. I got nervous through parts of it just because I was like, what's gonna happen next? Oh gosh, I hope the Nazis don't show up. Just like freaking out because they're living through a war, and so it was just a little nerve-wracking at times reading it. But I really loved it, and it's funny, Victoire is because she's his maid, she's also a good cook, and there's a lot of talks about how she makes wonderful honey cake. And I just remember thinking to myself, if you could come up with a symbol for this book, honey cakes would be it, because they talk about honey cakes. They talk about her honey cakes all the time. But this book was really good. If you are interested in, this is self-published, so if you were interested in it, I got it on Amazon, but this was so good. So yeah. Yep. And then the last book that I read for February was a reread, and that was a book that I love personally, A Night to Surrender by Tessa Dare. This is one of my favorite Tessa Dare books, and basically, it's a Spindle Cove book. It's the first Spindle Cove book, and yeah, it's Susanna and Bram and Susanna. I love them. I love them. I love reading their story. This is the first time I've reread it, so it's not like I've reread it a bunch of times, but I will probably reread it again just because I really do love their story. Susanna and Bram are both very similar people. They kind of remind me of oh, my mind is blanking. Kate and Anthony. They kind of remind me of the two of them, where they have very similar mentalities and very similar personalities, and so they butt heads in some ways, but they're also very good for each other. And I just love that book. I really love it. It's a 5-star read for me, so yeah. But that was it for today. I don't have anything else. This video is probably going to be very long, so I apologize. I will try to make it as succinct as possible. But if you have made it to the end, give me a puppy dog emoji. The one where the tongue is hanging out and the ears are floppy. That one. Give me a puppy dog emoji. Do it. Okay, you guys. I'm gonna go, and thank you for watching. Oh, and subscribe. I keep forgetting to tell people. If you're interested, please subscribe. Do it. Okay. I'm gonna go now. For real. All right.